Okay, I'm gonna do a quick tutorial for the fall leaf sweater weather tier tray kit. The first thing you need to do is either open the box that your kit came in or put down some paper, something that you can dab your paint on. And then anytime that I do my tier tray kits, I like to separate mine by color. You can paint yours by piece if that's easier for you. I prefer to just use one wedge at a time so I don't have to worry about it drying out. So I'm gonna go by color. So I've already separated my pieces. I have my white pile, the brown, and the red. The first thing we're gonna do is get your baby wipe out. Make sure that it is damp. If it has dried out, then you need to run your hand under water and just kind of grip it so that it doesn't, you don't want it dripping, but you definitely need it to be wet. Or you can even get a spray bottle and just spritz it with some water. So this is gonna, the baby wipe gives it kind of like a stained look versus painted. It's gonna let some of the wood grain come through. You obviously just have your paint pots instead of just pouring paint out. I don't know if you could tell from the pictures, but I actually stained my white pieces brown before I painted them white, because when I distressed them, I wanted the brown to come through. So if you plan on distressing them and you want it to look like that fall color, I recommend doing that step. If you're not going to sand to distress, then you can skip this. So let's just do the tag first. This is a brown piece. First thing you want to do is look at the direction that the wood grain is going. So this is going this way. Your piece might be running this way. It's just going to look more even if you stain your piece with the wood grain. So you're just going to wrap the baby wipe around your fingers, just lightly dip it into the brown paint. You don't need that much. And then I'm not gonna press down really hard. I'm just going to gently and quickly wipe over the top of my piece. And then re-dip and wipe. And as you can see, you can still see the wood grain showing through instead of it just being pure brown. Now, let's say you stained this and you're not liking how dark it is. You can take a clean end of the wipe, and while it's still wet, you can run it over and it's going to bring some of that color up. You can also sand it when it's completely dry, or vice versa. Let's say you're done staining it and you wish that it was darker, wait till it's dry and then just do another coat, and it's just going to make it a shade darker. So I will like how that turns out. I've done a few of these and one coat is all that I want to do. I put way too much on that white. I got a little ahead of myself. I recommend using your whole box or getting an entire, like the brown painter's paper, and just putting it on your surface. That way you're not limited to a little space. My husband's using our office where I usually paint. He's doing some schooling videos, and so I'm in the living room in this little tiny area. Didn't want to take out all of my painting supplies. So, okay. So I'm going to just go ahead and finish up staining all of the white pieces, and then I will come back and I will press play again when it's time to use the wedge, just in case this is your first kit and you want me to show you that portion. So finish the brown and we'll be right back. As soon as I started staining the white pieces, I remembered I wanted to mention on these little delicate pieces like fall and the stems, you don't want to get all crazy and go too fast, because it can be very easy to break these little pieces. So you just want to take your time and gently dab. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not pressing hard down. You don't need to do that, especially on these pieces that are white on top. I am not taking my time at all to make sure that they're perfectly even. Like I literally swipe this so fast and it's completely uneven, but since I'm painting on top and I just want that brown to show through, I'm not worried about really taking my time. But that doesn't mean press down and be reckless. So just be really careful if you see a skinnier part. Like I just am very gentle when I'm wiping, just to prevent that breakage. So now I will finish. I'm trying to see if there was another one, like maybe the letters, these cutouts in here, that's gonna be a little bit more fragile as well. So just be mindful of that as you are staining. Okay, once you are done with your pieces, with the brown pieces, I was gonna show you the red color first. If you're doing this, if your pieces aren't dry, I actually had to go pick up my daughter, so my pieces are completely dry. Then do the red pieces first if you're still waiting for these to dry. I'm gonna show you the white. So you're gonna get your paint pot, and you're gonna take a wedge, you're going to dip into the paint lightly, and then you're going to dab the excess off onto the side. If you have too much paint on your wedge, when you go to paint, it's just gonna flood it with paint and it's gonna like fall down the sides. It's gonna be a lot messier. It's just not, it's gonna be thick and it won't dry evenly. So if you want it to look nice and even, then dab off the excess and then very lightly dab up and down. Now, since I'm distressing, one coat is probably going to be more than enough because the more coats you put on, the harder you're going to have to sand. So don't make too much work for yourself. So you're going to want it completely covered evenly. So once it dries, if it looks really splotchy, I would do another really light coat. But you don't need it to be, like you can kind of see some brown still poking through this. And I think that once it dries, it's gonna be perfect for what I want when I sand it. So the key is just light dabs. And then your sides are gonna stay nice and clean too if you dab really soft, like you're not getting any paint on the sides, if you care about that. You might not. Okay, so I'm literally just going to repeat this on all the white pieces, and then I am going to do my red pieces, and then when everything dries, I'll get back on here to show you how I distress and how I make the tassel and everything. I mentioned this in many videos, so if you heard this already, then just ignore it. But if you have kids or if you like to craft a lot, I always rinse my wedges out in water before the paint dries. If you wait till the paint dries, then it's probably too late because it's gonna harden. But if once it's still wet, when you're done with it, if you rinse it out in water, you can reuse these several times. So it'd be perfect to throw into like a craft box for your kiddos when they're bored, or if you have extra paint and you think, hey, you only sent this kit only had 3 colors, but I want to paint more, then that would be extra supplies for that. So it's always a good idea to save if you can. But anyways, I'm going to finish the white, I'll finish the red, and then we'll come back when it's time to put the kit together. Okay, it is now the next day because life just got crazy last night. So everything is obviously completely dry now. So make sure your pieces are dry, and I'm just going to show you how to put together 2 different pieces, because after you see these 2, that's all the skills that you need to finish the rest of the pieces. So let's start with the little house shape. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the background. So you get the rough, if you ordered multiple kits, you should have like a smoother sandpaper for certain kits, and that's more of just like, well, it's just a smoothing one, and then the rough one, and that will actually take paint off. So I'm not gonna push down super hard because it is easier to go back if you're not happy with the amount of distressing. It's easier to go back and sand more versus taking off too much right at the beginning and having to repaint your pieces. So I'm just going to lightly sand over the whole thing and then blow off all that paint. And then this one is actually rougher than the one I sent you. It just happened to be sitting here. So yours won't have these little scratches that mine is gonna have. And then I'm gonna go over it again and then mainly focus on the edges because that's where I want most of the distressing to show up. And then when I'm happy with how that looks, you are either going to use your fingernail, or if you've seen my previous posts, I've mentioned getting like a pair of these like super sharp tweezers. It just makes peeling this a little bit easier. My dog just came and laid right by me in order to chew her bone. So enjoy those sound effects. Okay, these little, when it's these little lines, it can get kind of annoying to peel, but okay. And then you're just going to place this however you want. I had my leaf pointing straight up to, I just liked that look better, but you can really position it however you want. Okay, and then you press it down and it is stuck. So you'll notice I had like, oh my gosh, I almost forgot. So these smaller pieces, I like to distress them once they're stuck down. It just makes it, oh my gosh, Macy, it makes it a lot easier. So especially with these little pieces, I more wipe rather than go back and forth because I want to make sure that I don't accidentally break any piece. And so I'm happy with that amount of distressing. I don't know if you can see it from the video. Okay, so for the little bow, you're gonna take it's a 12-inch string. And I'm just going to I don't really have any rhyme or reason. I'm not an expert bow tire, so maybe don't listen to what I say. I leave a little tail out because that's, I mean, I want a tail. And then I'm just going to, I put these Halloween nails on and it makes life a little more difficult. So then I'm just going to tie a little bow. That's about as big as I want my loops. Obviously you can do whatever you want. And then I will trim my, where's my scissors? Oh, right there. I'm just gonna trim these a bit. And then you're going to take the glue dot I sent in your box and you're going to place it not on your finger now. When you guys watch these, if you guys watch these videos, I hope I make you feel good about your crafting skills because I am 100% a mess when I do it. Come on. I like doing my nails, but then I always wonder, why do I do this? Because my life is more difficult. And then I'm just going to literally press it down and kind of reshape the bow so that it's laying more open. I'm using the glue dot to kind of reshape it. So then that just gives it a little accent. Okay, let's move on to the tag. I'm going to lay everything out just so that I have an idea of positioning. When I was carrying my pieces over here, I dropped them and broke this. So I'm going to show you with the sticky stuff. It's actually really nice because you can repair it and it looks perfect. Okay, so that's about where I want everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and do these leaves first. So especially with these delicate stems, I would say be extra careful so you don't break them, but guess what? I already did. I literally just dropped it and that's what happened. So that's my own fault. Okay, I'm not going to press down because since it's not one piece, I want to position it as best I can. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna press that down and then I'm going to butt this one up as close as I can and then press it down, and you are literally not even gonna tell that I dropped it. And then we'll do this piece next. And see how I just place it so gently down? That way, oh, I hope my head wasn't in the way of this the whole time. I don't know. That way I can make sure that it's as straight as possible and then press down. Now with this piece, be really careful even just peeling because if you jerk too quickly in one direction, I try not to do really, really delicate pieces because I want this to be user-friendly, but it looked really bulky when I tried to do bigger. So, and I wanted it to be a little more delicate. So I'm gonna press down. And then I'm just gonna be really careful and very gentle as I distress. And again, do as little as possible to begin with, because you can always go back. Oh, I didn't mention, this is such a rough sandpaper that I'm not worried about it, but generally what I do is I distress the red on one corner and the white on the other, because sometimes the red will transfer over to the white. So, but since this is just an example piece and I'm using sandpaper that I normally don't, I wasn't too worried about it because, okay. Did you see how like I lightly just went one direction to distress that? Okay, sorry, I got cut off because my phone rang. So let's finish this. And I realized that I was wrong. I'm showing you 3 pieces, not just 2. So we did the house, this little tag, and then we're gonna do the leaf with the tassel. So this piece came with 3 of these thicker twines. They're 12-inch strands. So what I'm going to do is just line up the ends. Oh, sorry about the light. The sun is coming through the window. There's really not much I can do about that. And then I'm going to fold them in half so that the ends match up as best as they can. And then I'm going to pinch the closed ends together and feed them through the hole. And then once I get all 3 through, I'm going to open up that hole and then pull the ends through. And then I'm just gonna try to pull them, oops, pretty even as I can, just so that I don't have to really trim. And then if you don't like how long they are, you can trim. I'm actually going to trim them to make them a little bit more even. Or if you wanted it smaller, you could easily trim more off. So there's that piece. Now let's go to our tassel. I did not sand this yet. I'm gonna be really careful next to the stem and even the ends. When I sand the leaves, I focus more on the ends and then the middle part. Again, yours won't look so scratchy. Like mine, you can see, I actually don't know if you can because where the sun is right now, but mine looks a little scratchy because I gave you a different sandpaper. That one's way too rough. Okay, to make your tassel, you have 3 sizes of string. The thicker string, that's really long, that's 6 feet long. I like to do the thicker twine for the tassel part just because it makes it look fuller. And then you have 2 pieces of the thinner twine. One is like 10 or 12 inches, the other one's 18. So for the tassel part, you need your thick 6-foot long one, and then the smallest string. So to make the tassel, I'm going to take the string and I just extend it a little bit past my palm, just because I've learned that that's the correct sizing for my hands. Obviously everyone's will be different. I spread my fingers because I have smaller hands and I want like a little bit longer tassel. So I spread my fingers to make it a little bit wider, and then I just spin around and around and around until it's fully wrapped. And then I'm gonna make the ends as even as I can. So then you're left with this loop and then the 2 ends. So then I'm gonna keep my finger in there and I'm going to pinch around my finger. So you have basically, get my finger out, you have 2 closed loops, a smaller end and a larger end. You're gonna take your 10-inch twine, and around the smaller end, this is where the head is, you're going to leave a tail out because you need something to be able to tie a knot with. And I'm just gonna wrap it as tight as I can. What did I do? Oh, I almost let go of one twine. Don't do that. So I have my closed loop. Let me start over. And then I'm just gonna wrap around a few times, just really tight. And then I'm gonna tie a knot. Come on, nails, don't fail me now. And then I'm just going to take a little extra time to make sure that it's tight because I don't want it to unravel. Then I'm going to take my pencil or a pen and make sure that you thread it through every bit of twine, because if you don't, you might accidentally pull it loose. So, and then I'm just gonna gently tug down. If the top is like super uneven, maybe you have a loop that's like really big, then you can just kind of tug these down and it just makes it a little bit more even. And then I'm going to, if this has fallen down, I'm just gonna tug it up closer to the pen or pencil and then pull it out. And then you just basically wanna have an eye that you can thread through. So I'm going to, once you're happy with that, then I'm gonna trim off these ends, not super close to the knot because I don't want it to unravel like as it loosens, but I want to be able to camouflage it a little bit better than it sticking out as much as it does. So that's, I don't know if you can tell, but that's about how much I have left. And then when you arrange your tassel, you can arrange it on face down. You're gonna take your scissors and you're going to cut this closed end. So cut all the way through. I missed one. And then just kind of even it up as best as you can. Every time I do this, I remember that I either need new scissors or I need to figure out how to sharpen my scissors. Okay, so then you get the remaining string, the 18-inch string, and you're going to thread it through that eye. And then just have a little tail left because you're going to tie a knot around your tassel. A lot of tying. Okay, this is where you need 2 small pieces of Scotch tape. I only had packing tape and it's a little bit bigger than I actually need, so trimmed it. I'm gonna take this. You can either trim this, but what I like to do is just tie it so I don't have any little pieces, tape it, because I don't wanna have any little pieces sticking out. So I'm gonna take the tail and tape it. I'm gonna straighten it out, pull it tight, and tape it to this end of the string. Scotch tape is easier to work with because it's not quite as long, so it's not gonna have as much chance of messing up like I just did. I think that might be a little bit bulky, but it'll be okay. Then you're gonna take one more piece of Scotch tape. Which way should I do? Let's do it this way. And put it on the other end of the string because we're going to be stringing our beads. And if you try to string twine, it is gonna unravel very quickly. So this is just gonna make your life easier. If this is skinny enough, I cut too big of a piece. Okay, now we're just gonna start stringing our beads. So the first few, I'm gonna gently guide down so it goes over that piece without ripping that tape off. And then once I get a few beads down so it's covered, then I can go a little faster. Now remember, your tape will not be that bulky. It should be much easier, much more user-friendly. I don't know how well this is actually going to help me. Some of the beads have small holes cut through, and so that actually, I may need to go get a different piece of tape. But anyways, if you have a wooden bead and one of the holes is like actually super small, then it's nice to have a pair of these tweezers because then you can either reach in and pull the string through, or you can kind of clear out some of the leftover wood. Like that. I don't know if you can see in there, so if oh, it went through well. I was gonna say, if it doesn't go through that well, then I would use my tweezers. Okay, so now that we are all strung up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the beads gently but firmly towards the tassel. If you don't, and there's huge gaps, once you tie the end of your string, there's going to be huge gaps in your garland like that. So I'm going to push it gently but firmly towards the tassel. My tassel is on this end. And then I'm going to take my tag and I'm going to string it through the hole. Then, as I push the beads through, I'm going to keep the tag as close to the beads as I can because as I tie it, it's gonna loosen up. So I'm gonna take this end and I'm gonna loop it around the back. So I want it to go around the back, but I want it in between the tag and this bead. Does that make sense? But I can't, I have to have it as close to the bead as possible. So, and then what that does is it creates a loop right here, and I'm going to take the end of my twine and pull it through that loop and tighten it so that now it's tied on. And then I'm going to repeat that procedure so that I can create a knot. So loop around, make sure that you don't get the stem wrapped in there. So behind the tag and the bead, create a little loop. Once you get it the first time, then it's much easier. And pull through that loop. And now it's knotted. And then I just like to take the leftover and go up through just a few of the beads, if my tape will allow that. I have had Scotch tape on like my shopping list for like 3 weeks, and then I just constantly forget once I actually get to the store. And I'm just gonna go up through a few of the beads. Honestly, I don't know if I'm even gonna make it through a few with this tape because it's helping me. 0%. It's not wrapped nearly tight enough. Let's see if I can. Nope. Okay, well, pretend I went up through like 3 beads I'm giving up after 1. And then whatever's left over, make sure that you don't cut the string that's actually holding the beads together. And then I just trim it. And so then you have your tassel. If that was a hard angle to see and you still have questions, please reach out to me. I'll have my daughter film while, so that she can get different angles, but this is the best I can do while I'm here by myself. So please let me know if you have any questions.